Ever feel like isekai anime are all the same? Like every story's just another hero in a strange world with overpowered abilities? Well, these 10 series break the mold in ways you won't believe. Mushoku Tensei. Starting with Mushoku Tensei, a series that may seem like classic isekai at first, but trust me, it goes places most isekai don't dare to. Our protagonist's journey from a tragic past into a whole new life has both raw emotion and incredible character growth. The story follows Rudeus Greyrat, who retains his memories from his previous life and uses them to live his second chance without regrets. He makes new friends, acquires magical abilities, and sets out on an adventure to live the life he's always wanted. Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy. In Tsukimichi, we've got a main character who's not exactly what you'd call a chosen hero. This guy's thrust into a world where he's more of an outcast than a savior, making this series a unique twist on the genre that'll have you rooting for the underdog. Makoto Misumi, an ordinary teenager, is summoned to a fantasy world to be its hero. However, the goddess judges him unattractive and dismisses him from his duties. Makoto Misumi, an ordinary teenager, is summoned to a fantasy world to be its hero. Arifureta. From commonplace to world's strongest. Arifureta is what happens when the nice guy trope gets thrown out the window. Our lead may start weak, but his path to becoming the strongest is brutal and totally ruthless. If you're tired of heroes who are all smiles, this one's for you. The series follows Hajime Nagumo, who is transported to another world with the rest of his class to fight in a war against the demon race. After he is betrayed and left to die by one of his classmates, Hajime begins a journey to improve himself and find a way to return home. How not to summon a demon lord? Ever wonder what it would look like if a socially awkward gamer got transported to a world where he's literally a demon lord? How not to summon a demon lord goes full-on comedy, mixing over-the-top powers with hilarious, cringe-worthy interactions. An elite player is summoned by two maidens to save a fantasy game. Within the world of Cross Reverie, two maidens in dire need summon the fearsome demon lord Diablo to save them. But Cross Reverie is just a virtual reality game, and Diablo is Takuma Sakamoto, an elite player with social issues. Overlord. Overlord follows an actual villain protagonist, a rare thing in Isekai. Here, our MC is no hero, but an all-powerful overlord of a dark guild. Watching him figure out this new reality from a morally gray perspective is endlessly fascinating and pretty refreshing. When a popular game is scheduled to be shut down permanently, veteran player Momonga refuses to log out. As NPCs begin to develop personalities and minds of their own, he decides to put his skills to use as the game's new overlord. Konosuba God's blessing on this wonderful world. It was a happy day for Kazuma, right up to the moment he died. A goddess intervenes and offers him a second chance in a magical land. Kazuma Satu, a high school student, gamer, and shut-in, died on an average day walking home from school, performing the one heroic act of his life. When it comes to comedy and isekai, Konosuba reigns supreme. This series flips the genre's usual tropes on their head, giving us a cast of quirky, sometimes useless characters. If you're looking for laughs, Konosuba is where it's at. My instant death ability is so overpowered. Imagine being able to end any fight with a thought. That's exactly the power our hero gets here. And watching him navigate a world where nothing really poses a threat is oddly satisfying. While heading to a school field trip, Yogiri Takatu's school bus is summoned to another world by a sage who shows just how horrible she in this world is by killing the adults for petty reasons and telling the students they are to be trained as sages to fight demons and complete missions. Uncle from Another World. Uncle from Another World breaks the isekai formula with an out-of-touch character who's spent years in a fantasy world and comes back, only to be completely misunderstood. It's equal parts hilarious and weirdly relatable. In modern-day Japan, Takafumi Takaoka picks up his uncle who recently awakened from a 17-year coma after being hit by a truck. Uncle shows the ability to use magic spells and explains that he was actually sent to another world. The Rising of the Shield Hero. In Shield Hero, we've got a protagonist who's more or less betrayed from the get-go. Forced into the role of the shield hero and quickly treated as an outcast, his journey for redemption and revenge is intense and emotional. The Rising of the Shield Hero follows the story of Naofumi Iwatani, a Japanese college student summoned to a fantasy world to become one of 4 heroic saviors. The 4 heroes must fight against the waves of calamity, portals that open in the sky and pour monsters into the world. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. And finally, That time I got reincarnated as a slime gives us a protagonist who goes from ordinary guy to a slime? But don't be fooled. Watching him gain powers, allies, and even his own kingdom is a surprisingly epic journey. The story follows Satoru Mikami, a salaryman who is murdered and then reincarnated in a sword and sorcery world as the titular slime, who goes on to gather allies to build their own nation of monsters. So, what's the takeaway? These isekai may share a genre, but each one brings a different flavor to the table. From dark twists to pure comedy, each series breaks away from the tired tropes and shows there's still something fresh to be found in these alternate worlds. If you're a fan of isekai, these 10 are absolute must-watches. Whether you're here for the epic battles, the comedy, or the unique twists, these series offer something for everyone. They each show why isekai is one of the most diverse genres out there, if you know where to look. For more anime recommendations, make sure to subscribe.